It's good, y'all. It's Classic and Mainstay. I'll be matchmaking every single winner from yesterday's card. Pretty fire card, honestly. It might low-key be like a top 5 card of the year by the end of the year. Maybe I'm, gassing it up because the last 2 cards were absolute buns, but, let's get into it. So, for Mario Bautista, got a pretty sick submission over Vinicius Oliveira. Set it up very nice. Unfortunately, the Vinicius Oliveira plot armor, bantamweight DDP title run is over. I'm sad, but for Mario Bautista, he showed he's high level. I mean, the dude good going an 8-fight win streak for a reason. I was wrong. I accept that. I was very wrong. So for Mario Bautista, I think it's time we look at like a top 5 matchup for him. And I think a perfect matchup for him would be him versus Song Yadong. This makes sense as, Mario Bautista coming off the win over Vinicius Oliveira. He's only lost to what? Umar Nurmagomedov, Corey Sandhagen, and Trevin Jones in like 2021 by fluke, but his only like real like definitive losses are to Corey Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov. So I think he should get another shot at the top 5. Like I think Song Yadong coming off a loss to Sean O'Malley, you could argue he won that fight. I thought he performed pretty well, but he's gonna have to fight down if we're being for real. The UFC does not care enough about Song Yadong to let him fight up. To be fair, who would even fight up against? Like he's already fought basically everyone in the top 5 and lost to him. So I think Mario Bautista versus Song Yadong. I actually don't know who I would lean in this. This would be a close fight because Song Yadong's, just blockhead pressure might just overwhelm Bautista. But I feel like Bautista would get this done just with his grappling. And also, I feel like he's a better striker actually. Now that I think about it, I think with mixing in grappling with the smart technical striking, doesn't get caught often. Yeah, I think Mario Bautista would win this, but I think it would be a pretty interesting fight. Alright, and for our co-main event, Kyoji Horiguchi took care of business, just like I predicted him to. Absolutely whooped Amir Albazi. I mean, look at his face on this picture here. I'm surprised. I'll give Amir Albazi this. He's one tough dude, I won't lie. I mean, for this fight to go to the decision is kind of insane. So for Kyoji Horiguchi, I mean, what is it going to be, number 6 or number 5 in the flyweight division? I think he deserves a really big matchup. I think he deserves the title eliminators. This dude's just he's giving belt to these dudes, making them beg for mercy. Like, ain't nobody ever just came in the UFC and started straight up dominating people like Kyoji Horiguchi, man. I think a really fun fight that's kind of like a cool like dynamic, Japan. I think we should do Kyoji Horiguchi versus Tatsuro Taira. So here's how I think the flyweight division is gonna happen. I think we're gonna do Pantoja versus Van in August. I think Pantoja's gonna have a quick recovery, good or bad, I don't know. But I think he'll have a pretty quick recovery and fight Joshua Van in August. And then in the meantime, I think there'll be a title eliminator. And I think the UFC just hates Minnow Cop, or they don't hate him, but they just kind of treat him like he doesn't exist sometimes. And I think they're gonna go for. There's a card in Asia. I know I was looking at like the fight schedule. There's a card in Asia, I believe, in like August. So they might try to throw this on there, like around the same time as Van versus Pantoja. And I think it's a really fun matchup. Japan versus Japan. Kyoji Horiguchi, super crazy, karate blitz striker, super fun to watch. Darting in and out, hard to hit. Brick wall takedown defense versus Tatsuro Taira, one of the best grapplers in the division. Coming off 2 finish wins, got a submission over Sung Park in the main event of one of the biggest cards from last year, and then coming off that, finish one over former champ Brandon Moreno. So I think this will be a really interesting matchup. I'd probably lean Kyoji Horiguchi, as I still think Taira's striking is too one-dimensional, and I think honestly Amir Albazi and Taira are kind of similar level of wrestlers. Like Taira's obviously way better at BJJ than he is, but I just don't see him getting Horiguchi down. Like Horiguchi's takedown defense is elite, man. Like I think Horiguchi would he would give Taira a beating. Like it'd be like a 30-25, I won't lie. Like Horiguchi would absolutely massacre this man, but still, please make this fight. This would be a lot of fun. So for our featured fight, one of the all timers, Rizvan Kuniev versus Jelton Almeida. I don't even have an image. I couldn't find an this fight was so boring. The UFC didn't even do an octagon interview, so I couldn't I couldn't find an image of Rizvan Kuniev getting his hand raised. So for Rizvan Kuniev, it was a performance. I don't think he deserves to fight up after that, but he can fight in the heavyweight rankings. I think we do Rizvan Kuniev versus the winner of Ante Delija and Sergey Spivak. It's actually a close fight coming up. This is gonna be in 2 weeks on that UFC Houston fight night. It's Spivak will be number 7. If Spivak wins this, he could probably fight up just because it's heavyweight. Delija wins this, he shows that he still got it. The Waldo fight was a fluke, and he could fight Kuniev next. I think either of these guys would be a decent fight versus Kuniev. I don't know. Sergey Spivak and Kuniev would be like S tier, just apex matchmaking, but I don't know. It just makes sense for the heavyweight division. Oh, Jel's not made it, brother. I know I'm just matchmaking winners today, but just for you, I had to matchmake something for you. Just for you. I got a big fight planned for you, man. A big fight planned. I'm sorry, brother. You're getting sent to the PFL. Pack your bags. You're done. You don't want to fight people. You are a pacifist. You are done. You don't get to fight in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Send him to the PFL. Please. Let's get back to talking about things I care about. Let's see, Michelle Olajaychek, close decision win over Marc-Andre Barriault. Wasn't the highest level fight I've ever seen in my life, but, Michelle got it done. Extended his 3-fight win streak. Decent performance. So for Michelle Olajaychek, I think he should be, honestly, middleweight's bad enough that a guy this unskilled, I think, can be fighting near the rankings. So I think a really fun fight for him, honestly, that I think would be a banger. Low-key, I think we should make Michelle Olajaychek versus the loser of Christian Leroy Duncan versus Roman Dolidze. This is gonna be on that UFC London fight night in March, and I think I think whoever loses this, it's gonna be, spoiler alert, it's Roman Dolidze. If Roman Dolidze loses this, then he'll probably either get kicked out of the rankings or be number 15, which would be a good opportunity for Olajaychek to get in the rankings. He gets smashed by every other ranked dude, but and then CLD loses this, he's gonna need a bounce back fight. I feel like he would chin Olajaychek in 2 rounds, so. I think it's gonna be a fun fight though. Either way, Olajaychek looks a scrap, smart, technical fighter. He hasn't made some big improvements though since switching to fighter nerds. He's not just a complete victim anymore. He actually wins fights now, which is something, I guess. Still, make this fight later in the year. All right, and then for Farid Basharat, won a close decision over Gene Matsumoto. I thought he won. I know a lot of people were screaming robbery. I scored this what's called 1-3 Farid Basharat. I gave round 2 to Gene Matsumoto. And then I thought round 3 was the closest of the fight, but I thought, Farid slightly, out-edged it on damage. So, for Farid Basharat, I think, he's pretty good, honestly. He's, what, 6? The number after 6, we're not saying that, and O in the UFC. So, I think for Farid Basharat, I think he should get a ranked opponent next. And this is just a funny matchup that I think makes a lot of sense. I think we need to do Farid Basharat versus Vinicius Oliveira. This would be such a funny matchup. Farid Basharat, actually, the fuck goes there? The dude who cares about the outside foot battle versus Vinicius Oliveira, he's bantamweight DDP essentially. I mean, he just walks you down with his hands down. You don't know how he's gonna show up. Cuts 50 pounds, is a mutant. I don't know, man. I think this would be a funny matchup just to see the styles clash. This goofy, unorthodox striker and Vinicius Oliveira versus a very technical, smart, well-rounded, doesn't take many risks fighter and Farid Basharat. I think this would be fun. I'd probably lean Basharat to win because I think he'd probably be able to replicate some of the same grappling success of Mario Bautista. But I also think it would be close on the feet as Farid has struggled with pressure in the UFC, so I think this would be a fun one to make. Make this, later in the year. And then for Dustin Jacoby, got a pretty sick finish over Julius Walker. Crazy late stoppage, by the way. I don't know what the refs were smoking, but pretty good win for Dustin Jacoby. I mean, he's what, 3 straight KOs. I think we should reward that. I think a good fight for him in the top 15. Honestly, a really fun fight. I think would be him versus Zhang Mingyang. Zhang Mingyang coming off the loss to Johnny Walker, where he dominated Walker in the first round, but then got calf kicked to death in the second. I think he needs a big bounce back fight. And Jacoby has never beat anyone ranked, so maybe he can finally do it against this blockhead and Zhang Mingyang. Either way, this fight ends in a round 1 KO. Let's be for real. No way this fight's going to decision. Now, who I would lean, I might lean Zhang Mingyang, as I still think he's decent. Or actually maybe not, because Jacoby actually is a former Glory kickboxer, and he might be able to, take advantage of that clear, leg kicking disadvantage. So actually, no, I'd lean Jacoby by probably KO, but still be a fun fight, I think. I think the UFC should make this. Maybe in China later in the year if they go there. Or actually, no, they have an Asia card that I was just talking about with Tyro and Huriguchi. Stick this on there. This would be a cool card. That would be a fun fight for that. Maybe a opener to a card or something like that. So, alright. Now moving on to the prelim fights. Daniel Donchenko. Alex Morono, brother. I feel bad, bro. That man got one of the worst weapons ever. Got his leg chewed up and probably got 40 injuries. Got both his ACLs probably torn. Got dropped 3 times I could count. Got his lip, completely destroyed. Got his face probably changed forever. You know, Donchenko looked pretty good in this fight. Like the fight should have been stopped in the first round of me for real. This should not have went to decision. But you know, Donchenko, you know, he showed toughness, showed he could throw at a decent output even after being gassed. So showed the ability to fight through, you know, bad cardio. So for Daniel Donchenko, I think a fun matchup at 170 for him. This would be a really fun matchup. Would be him versus Andreas Gustafsson, because you know Daniel Donchenko, he's kind of like the welterweight Yuri Prohaska, just kind of fights very kind of weird, very you know just power heavy, just looking to knock someone out. And then Andreas Gustafsson's kind of the same, you know. He's always looking for finishes. He's looking violent, coming off the KO loss to Renat Fakhretdinov, so he's gonna need to fight down a bit. So I think this makes sense as a matchup. I'd say book this, you know, sometime. Maybe like I don't know. Donchenko made his debut you know, on that Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez card, so maybe like in June of this year they make this fight. I think that'd be fun. And then all right, next on the card, you know, for Javid Basher, I'm giving him Davy Grant. Javid Basher, you know, he pulled off a crafty little win over that Mexican dude. I forgot his name. Got dropped, nearly got finished, nearly got subbed a couple times, but he pulled out a crafty little win, dropped the guy, nearly brutalized him. I mean, Javid's, you know, Javid's not bad. He has a bad chin, but he's a skilled fighter. And I think a fun fight would be him and Davy Grant. You know, Davy Grant coming off that pretty violent submission loss to Charles Jourdain. You know, time to get back to, you know, just being a crafty vet at 40 years old, just crafting up wins. You know, like I think this would be a fun matchup because you know Davy Grant does have actual like KO power for or weird like old man power. And Javid Basharat's chin is shot, so like maybe Davy Grant could pull this out, but this would be a fun fight either way. So I don't know. Make this sometime later in the year. And then for our next prelim fight, Jakob Wicklat's got a sick submission, Hail Mary submission, saved my pick. I mean, he was going to win on scorecards anyways. I don't know what the judges were smoking. He was losing that fight 2-1 before the submission. But, you know, he clutched up on the pick, got that last second submission over Mean Gaffarov or whatever this guy's name is. I mean, sick guillotine. Dude tried to act like he didn't tap. The whole world saw you tap, buddy. I hate to tell you. So, anyways, for Jakob Wickelax, I think he's a lot of fun. I mean, he's really goofy. He's really funny. Like he gets all close to you, throws these really goofy body kicks, yeah, gasses horribly, just like stops trying, and then just locks in on a guillotine and essentially flukes this guy. Like it was pretty funny. I won't lie. So for Jakob Wickelax, you know, 2-0 the UFC, the win over Patchy Mix. It's a win. It's a win. You know, honestly, Patchy Mix ain't that bad. I mean, he lost to this guy and Mario Bautista, which both aged decently for him. So I guess he's not that bad. And I mean, Patchy Mix arguably beat this guy. So for Jakob Wiklak, I honestly think he can get a top 15 opponent next. I think he's fun. I think he's a lot of fun, and and I think a really fun matchup would be between him and Kyler Phillips. Because this is another matchup, another guy that's gonna shoot a lot of takedowns on him. That's gonna allow Wiklax to use his wrestling, well, not his wrestling, but his BJJ. You know, his nasty guillotine. And then also on the feet, I still feel like Wicklock should have the advantage with his body kicks, with his teeps to the body. Like, I really think this would be a lot of fun though, because you know Kyler Phillips does usually put on pretty fun fights. So I say book this. You know, honestly soon. Honestly, now that I think about it, maybe in the next few months we book this. This would be a really good fight though. Like I think Jakob Wicklock versus Kyler Phillips has to be next. So anyways, y'all, that's my matchmaking. Or actually, no. All right, here for some losers I forgot about. Gene Matsumoto. I think he should fight the loser of Raw Roses Jr. versus Rob Font on UFC 326. And then I think that's the only loser that I really care about. Yeah, Vinicius Alvarez. Amir Albazi, he could fight Oscar Mabayev in a couple months. That'd be fun. Anyways, thanks for watching, y'all. I'll catch y'all in the next couple days. Later.